So, the Gospel reading for today is taken from the Gospel of John in the first chapter and the 43rd verse. The next day, Jesus decided to leave for Galilee. Finding Philip, he said to him, "Follow me." Philip, like Andrew and Peter, was from the town of Bethsaida. Philip found Nathanael and told him, "We have found the one Moses wrote about in the law, and about whom the prophets also wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph." "Nazareth? Can anything good come from there?" Nathanael said. "Come and see," said Philip. When Jesus saw Nathanael approaching him, he said of him, "Here truly is an Israelite, in whom there is no deceit." "How do you know me?" Nathanael asked. Jesus answered, "I saw you while you were still under the fig tree, before Philip called you." Then Nathanael declared, "Rabbi, you are the Son of God, you are the King of Israel." And Jesus said, "You believe, because I told you I saw you under the fig tree. You will see greater things than that." And he added, "Very truly I tell you, you will see heaven open and the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man." This is the word of the Lord. So, this is a really intriguing passage, and the word that strikes me the most is the word "see." I think that we often see things through our hearts or our imagination or in our mind's eye, or some people could say through the eyes of faith, way before they actually happen. So, I was talking to somebody today. I was actually doing an interview for a podcast that I do, and this guy called Mo Pleasure, great name, is somebody who's played with lots of bands, including Earth, Wind and Fire. And he was telling me this story about when he was 14 and he went to a concert, and it was Earth, Wind and Fire. He was just a teenager, and he looked up at this display that was going on. They were a very visual band and the music was amazing, and he was just enraptured by the whole thing. And something in him said, "I want to be in that band. I want to be part of this." But he was only 14. Anyway, long story short, a few years later, he ends up getting a phone call from somebody who'd recommended him to try out to be in a band called Earth, Wind and Fire. And he went along and he got the gig, and he ended up playing with them. Now, I was talking to him about this idea of sight, because I think oftentimes God drops something into our imagination, like a seed, you could say, before it actually happens. And as it says in Hebrews, we sort of see things with the eyes of faith before they happen. And we acquire those things. It's not a name it and claim it kind of, if we think it will happen type of deal. But there is some power in where we put our imagination, where we visualize things to go for us. And we see it here in the passage that Jesus is referring to sight. He's seeing things before they happen. He's seeing people before they happen. He knows the names and the origins of people before the meeting actually takes place. And he refers at the end of the passage to, "You will see heaven open and the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man." That experience is accessed through seeing, through the visual medium. And in terms of how we work with this ourselves, I guess the question for us is, what do we visualize? What do we do with our imagination? At the moment, our imagination is very easily filled up with fear, worries about the pandemic, worries about work, worries about the economy. There are a lot of things in the media that can absolutely saturate our imagination, our mind's eye, if you like. And those things are real, but I guess what God's calling us to is to have our eyes open, the eyes of our heart open, to what he might be doing. And although we might sometimes think of the spiritual realm as somehow separate from the physical or less substantial, I would say that there is a really strong connection between what we see and what we actually live out. What we see often is the precursor to what we experience. If we can't imagine it, then we often can't do it. If we can't see it, it's harder to step into it. And that, I think, is the message I take from this passage, which is that Jesus is opening up the eyes of his disciples and encouraging them to see something that's really beyond their previous horizon. And when he says to them things like, you will see angels descending and ascending on the Son of Man, they may have had some partial understanding from the Hebrew scriptures of what the Son of Man was about, maybe, but they couldn't really have got their heads around it completely. And I think for us, the challenge and the exciting opportunity is to step into what's God saying to us today, what's God causing us to start imagining, and to put our minds on those things. As we read elsewhere in the New Testament, to put our minds on those things that are beautiful, that are holy, that are going to enrich us and actually going to inspire us to step into the future that God has for us. So I pray today and through this week that for all of us, we'll be able to see with the eyes of our hearts what God's saying to us. I pray that we'll be able to access all of what he has for us through our imagination and through our actions following. Amen.